Countdown to Eternity starts now.
Well, hello, my dear brothers and sisters. I want to welcome you to another episode of Countdown to Eternity. And I am with Tom Hughes. And I'm going to warn all of you, we are going to have a blast today. And here's the reason why we're going to have a lot of fun. And it might be a little bit more lit up than usual because Tom is tired. He just got off of a plane from Florida, right? And has been on a massive tour of all kinds of business for the kingdom. And so we have to be loud, aggressive, and fast in order to keep him awake and to keep me awake, quite frankly. So we are going to talk about the economy and the world of Revelation 13. We're going to do this, by the way, for the next two shows. And you might be asking, what does the CIA have to do with it? What does weather modification have to do with it? What does all that stuff have to do with it? Well, let's get the answer from Tommy. Tommy, talk to me. I'm going to read some passages from Revelation 13. We're going to get into that. But first and foremost, how are you, bro? What's the latest and greatest? What's going on with you, bro?
I'm doing good. I'm really tired. Like you said, I just got in from Florida, literally just got in from Florida. But you know what? This is what we're doing. And I know what we got to do, James. We have to press as hard as we can. We see the finish line.
Amen.
And it just is what it is.
Amen.
You know, sleep. There's a time to sleep and there's a time to work.
Yep.
And right now it's like, this is exciting. Great doing this with you.
Yeah,
I'm
bro.
going to see if I can get you wound up today too, because that's always exciting.
Every time I get wound up, everybody gets mad at me and they're like, let your guest talk and try to explain to people he's not my guest. He's a co-host. We're doing this together. This is, but what am I going to do? And I'm from the Middle East and people are not used to loud people from the Middle East. But
People are used to loud people from the Middle East are used to loud people from the Middle East.
Hey, and my incredible audiences, like all my people that regularly watch me, I'm telling you, bro, I have to say this, even our radio listeners, especially our radio listeners, we have some of the most incredible people in the world that watch us and listen to us. Like, I'm so grateful. I've been reading comments lately of some of the most faithful, just absolutely amazing rainmakers, man. I mean, people that are just making a difference, just one person at a time. And they're the reason why I think we keep doing the things that we're doing. And it's a total blessing. So the trolls are the trolls. Who cares?
By the way, you know what's in this phone right here?
What?
Well, that's a picture of my daughter. It's got a whole bunch of pictures of people that I met in Florida that are so excited that I've been doing programs with you.
Oh, that's good, bro.
Pictures. They're so excited. Oh, James, tell James I love him. But I got tons of pictures, but I can't remember any of their names. So sorry, anybody who's out there watching, but I do have your pictures.
People tell me that all the time. Tell Tommy I love him. Tell Tom I love him. Like, tell him yourself.
So
I'm joking.
That's funny. That's funny.
At this point, the naysayers are going, get on with the show.
You're
all talking too much.
That's exactly what they're saying. Come on, we're here to hear other stuff.
Okay, I have to read something to you, and I'm gonna do this, and then in that I'll let you run with it a little bit. I actually taught this in church a few weeks ago. I'm teaching through the book of Revelation right now. It's been a lot of fun. Matter of fact, it's interesting. I was out of town last week. And my brother shared through the book of Daniel chapter 8, my older brother, John. So if you guys missed that, it was aired on Thursday, the 7th of March. He did a great job, by the way. You go back to my YouTube channel, you'll see it. But anyway, we've been talking about all of this stuff, the changes in the world, everything that's going. Let me start in Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. It says, and I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Of course, we spent a lot of time talking about the fact that there's a lot of people who create this appearance of being something that is lovable and embraceable. The Pope is one of these guys. He's like one of these guys you just want to hug. You know what I mean? But goodness gracious, they talk like the dragon. You know what I mean?
Anyways.
Yeah. We'll no, but if you think about it, he is a little bit more lovable like a teddy bear than the other popes that we've seen. Okay. He seems like he's a little bit more approachable. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm just saying.
He all struck me as a teddy bear. That's exactly.
Yeah. No, but look, but here's the thing. The words that come out of his mouth are demonic. I mean, and so this is a revelation, principle here. And I will tell you, he would make a good applicant for the false prophet, because that's what we're reading about right now, the false prophet. But look at verse 12. And he exerciseth all power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Later on, we find out in verse 14 of Revelation 13, if my memory serves me correctly, that of course we know that he was wounded by a sword, which makes it even more interesting, right? The final antichrist. But look at verse 13, and this is what I think is really interesting, okay? And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of man, and he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by sword, as I mentioned earlier, and did live. Verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Okay, there's been a lot of speculation over this image of the beast, what it's going to look like, the animation of this beast, what's going to happen. A lot of changes have come. We're looking at the power of AI, what AI can actually do. We're seeing things changing dramatically and radically. This is something that I had read recently. 30% of the interactions that we have right now in this country, period, on a given day are with AI, and most people don't even know about it, right? And a lot of this AI is being controlled by government officials. And those government officials are being controlled by people with a very serious global based mindset, who are wanting to not recreate, they're wanting to create or build a new world order. And we are moving in a very dark direction. Go for it. Talk about this.
There's a whole lot here. So
Yeah,
this is going to be
there is.
great. In fact, we're going to have to do a second program because I know we're not going to have enough time for it all. So there's this document. It's been found. The first time I know one was found of it was a copy was in 1969, and it's regarding a group that began really in 1954. And the document itself is titled "Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars." And
Hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's really interesting. It's been written about in different books, and then there's been a couple of different copies. Now, what's interesting about it, somebody recently came up to me and they heard me speaking about it, and they said, "Hey, I don't want to give away too many details here, James," but they said, "Hey, I have a copy of that document. My dad had it, and my dad passed away, and her dad was in the military or whatever he was. So I have a copy of it. It's right here in my hands, and this thing is wild, James. So it's from 1954, the original one, and it's actually uh, uh, promoted as the Third World War. But again, it's titled "The Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars." And what it is, it's this: it lays out a plan for social engineering and the automation of society via silent weapons. And this is their own words on a national and a global scale. And the U.S., it was the Air Force that got involved with it okay, let me go through. I mean, there's so much going on here. The Rockefellers funded this study. It's all part of this back in 1948, the Harvard Economic something project. And the whole purpose of it was to find out what how to control economies. And what they were able to find out is, hey, economies they follow the same laws like electricity follows laws or like gravity follows laws. And it was a 4-year study that Rockefeller Foundation funded. So with that, they were able to determine, hey, we can manipulate the masses of the people any way we want based upon the economy. But with the silent weapons, it's not just the economy that is this significant weapon. It goes into all different types of things that we see that are being used. So it doesn't, in their own words, it doesn't make a bang in the traditional weapon sound, right? You aren't using missiles, you're not using bullets, but the damage is much greater. Now, in this document, James, listen to this. This is a quote from the document. It must be understood that a state of domestic warfare exists between said person or group of persons and the public. The solution of today's problems uh, requires an approach which is ruthlessly candid with no agonizing over religious, moral, or cultural values. Now, it gets even more interesting. Another quote to a particular person that this was directed at. You have qualified for this project because of your ability to look at human society with cold objectivity and yet analyze and discuss your observations and conclusions with others of similar intellectual capacity. With cold objectivity, you know how to look at things. You're able to determine, hey, this is how everything uh, needs to go. You don't care about the feelings of people. You don't care about people dying. You don't care about whatever it may be. So, okay, in 1948, what it was with the Rockefellers, it was the Harvard Economic Research Project. Again, the Air Force got involved. The CIA is mentioned in the document itself. And then as I'm even reading up more about it today. Even the Navy intelligence is involved in this. So this is just crazy. So I know you know this. When you look at Zuckerberg, from everything we know, Zuckerberg, he creates this program, which then became Facebook and now Meta. But from everything we know, he was recruited when he was in college. And it was really what Facebook became was really a DARPA project. And the purpose of it was part of the silent war to gather information against the masses of the people in the Western world voluntarily. So with that, it was Regina Dugan was involved in it. And we know as she was leading DARPA, which also Google is part of the whole is part of DARPA. So DARPA's hands are all over Google too. So you start looking at how all of these things come about, and you go, man, this is just wild. And then when you look at what Rockefellers did, again, this is all part of this document, all part of it. So as you look at this funding that Rockefeller did with the Harvard Economic Research Project, its immediate aim was to determine what forces change economic structure, how the behavior of the structure can be predicted, and how it can be manipulated. And what they discovered is that an economy obeys the same laws, just as I mentioned already, like electricity does. In other words, they know exactly what money's going to do. They know how to manipulate the masses. They know what makes it go up, what makes it go down. They know how to start wars. They know how to end wars. They can even determine who is going to win a war. And these things are done intentionally. So when you start working this out and you look at Ukraine, you start looking at, okay, why do we have such high inflation when the common person knows that printing trillions of dollars is a really bad idea for the economy? Well, what is really going on? This is all part of what's right here in this document. It's all part of it. It's told this is how we're going to do it, and there is this is the means to the end, which also reminds me, James. I know have I been talking too much?
No,
Okay,
no, absolutely.
so
Because it's good because I got a lot to say about this too. This is unbelievable, and I'm gonna read a quote to you that's gonna blow your mind. It's gonna
I
it's
want to
it's
hear it.
gonna go right with what you're saying. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay, so when we look at it and you realize, okay, in Revelation chapter 17, we have the 10 kings, and the 10 kings give their power and authority to the beast, and then they destroy the harlot system. So what we know is there's this harlot system that's created, the system that rides the beast. It's created, but then the 10 kings do away with it as they come into power. What they are doing, they are using the system that's built to give themselves power. They know it's a fraud. That's why they get rid of it a few verses later, after they establish the
100%.
kingdom with antichrist. They eliminate it because they know the whole thing is a fraud. And what we are watching right now, we know almost everything is a fraud as we're looking at it, and we're being manipulated. And then you start reading this document, top this silent weapons for quiet wars, where World War III actually began in 1954 against the American people, and you see what it says and how things are going to play out, you go, this is exactly where we are.
I'm gonna argue that the end game started a lot earlier
Oh,
than
well,
that, and
I could go way back, but I mean,
yeah,
when you
yeah.
have it officially in this official document, I find it very fascinating. But anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry about
No, but let me read something to you because this is right along the lines of everything that we talked about. You bring up John Rockefeller, and here's something that a lot of people don't know or might not be aware of, and that is the fact that in 1914, okay, ready? Let me
yeah,
say this again. 1914, he invested in a general education board for the United States of America of $129 million. $129 million in
that's a heck of
1914.
a lot of money.
Okay. Yeah. So you're talking about the equivalent of billions. Okay. In today's terms. Okay. $129 million, dollars, which provided major funding for schools across the nation and was very influential in how schools were actually shaped. He actually said this. I'm going to read a quote to you. He said, I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers. Think about the way school is structured today. You get kids that go to school, they're there anywhere from 6 to 8 hours a day. They get their 15-minute breaks in between. They're being conditioned to sit in a room of 40 or 50 students with one master, right? One teacher that basically tells them if the sky is blue, they say the sky is
Mhm.
blue, or if the sky is red, the sky is red. They brainwash these kids and they prepare them for the industrialized workforce. In this case, the workforce that we're seeing today will be an army of people that will seek to destroy the world as the final antichrist approaches and does exactly what he does. Let me read this to you. This is crazy. This is a guy by the name of Frederick T Gates. He was a prominent member of the General Education Board. He was Rockefeller's dude. He was like his advisor. He says, we shall not try to make these people or any of their children into philosophers or men of learning or men of science. We have not to raise up from among them authors, editors, poets, men of letters. We shall not search for embryo great artists, painters, musicians, nor lawyers, doctors, preachers, politicians, statesmen, of whom we have an ample supply. I, I want to also say that when you see guys like this talking, he also was a cohort with Carnegie. Carnegie was very involved in all of this. And what they started doing was they started preparing the minds of young people to first start with being programmed to the 8 hour day, which created a dependency upon the industrialized world in order to make their living. It pulled them away from being able to take care of themselves and to think outside of a specific box. And then it went into the 1950s, as you're talking about, to a state of programming the minds and the hearts of kids to think about things differently so that as they got older, they would simply go with the nations. They would ride into the harlot system that we read about in Revelation 17, what we've been reading about leading into Revelation 13 and beyond. This is crazy, bro. This is crazy. And we're seeing it. And by the way, we talk about all these psyops that are happening, what's going on with the CIA, what's happening with all of these elitists, these globalists that are doing all the things that they're doing. It all goes back to all of that stuff. And people wonder why I make such a big deal about kids being homeschooled, right? People wonder why we go out of our way to basically tell parents, do not allow your children to be programmed by these wicked programmers that are beginning to set them up to partake in the system of the beast. And it's just absolutely crazy. It's why me and you talk about these woke churches all the time. It's like, have fun falling to your woke industrial complex, because guess what? You're going to be the whore they kill first. You're going to be the whore that they destroy first. And that's exactly what
Yeah.
we're seeing right now. It's getting
It
crazy.
it is getting crazy. So, when you look at Marxism, that's what they do. They will eliminate the people who are their original supporters, when they come to power. So,
That's right.
and we look at this, so check this out. This is totally along those same lines. This document from 1954, this is almost exactly what you were just reading, even though this came some 50 years later. In the interests, this again, this is a quote, in the interest of future world order, peace and tranquility, it was decided to privately wage a quiet war against the American public with an ultimate objective, shift prosperity and all that goes with it from the undisciplined and irresponsible many, in other words, all of us, into the hands of the self-disciplined, irresponsible, and worthy few, in other ones that are cold, calculating, and have no empathy. They've got nothing there. That's why we have these leaders, and we're all looking at them going, these people don't care. The Bill Gateses of the world, they don't care about anybody, and you know they don't. This quote continues, what is necessary is the creation of a class of weapons that are sophisticated more than any others ever, silent weapons, low-class elements of society. Remember when Hillary Clinton used to call everybody the deplorable that wouldn't vote for her? So here it is. Low-class elements of society must be brought under total control, must be housebroken. This is a quote. Housebroken, trained, given long-term social duties. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of, which is exactly what you just said. The quality of education given to the lower class must be of the poorest sort, isolating the inferior from the superior. It is a form of slavery, and it will maintain a measure of social order, peace, and tranquility for the ruling upper class. And it continues from there. This is what you said. So from 50 years prior, Jacob Mayer Rothschild, right? Well, way back, a couple hundred years back. The stuff he said, and you know, this is an amazing thing, James, is our friend David Tao. He said, we were talking about Fiddler on the Roof. And he said, you know, when Tavia is singing, If I Were a Rich Man, you know that line? He said
Hell
in
yeah.
Hebrew, they sing, If I Were a Rothschild. And it was a direct shot at Rothschilds. And this is wild. I know you know this, but I don't think many viewers do, our listeners do. So check this out. In 1811, and Rothschild's their hands are all over everything. In 1811, the Grand Duke of Frankfurt enacted a law decreeing that all Jews living in Frankfurt, together with their descendants, should enjoy civil rights and privileges equally with other citizens. In exchange for these newfound liberties, the Jews had to pay him 440,000 florins, which is Florence money, financed by Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Yep. So here's Rothschild. He was doing the same thing that Soros did during World War II with the Nazis against fellow Jews. So Mayer Rothschild is saying, I'm going to make money off the Jews. He was in bed with them. He was a Jew that was selling out Jews. You know, it grinds me when I hear of the anti-Semitism that's out there, and these people are saying, look, all Jews are bad and stuff like that. They bring in Rothschild. Well, Rothschild was a Jew who didn't like other Jews. You know?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Are you kidding me? Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and look, this kind of corruption that we're talking about is the same exact pattern that we see established as we begin to stop for a moment and just examine what to expect, especially in the last days. Here's a thing that people have to recognize, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to embed in the heads and the minds, the hearts of the people that not only watch us on this channel, but listen to me on the radio and go to our church. I am trying to get it embedded in their head that the devil has been working on this end game from the beginning of the Garden of Eden. I don't think people recognize this. The moment he was thrown out, the very moment he was thrown out, right? The very moment Adam and Eve were thrown out, right? He went out of his way to make every opportunity that he could to destroy and cast aspersion upon not only the word of God, but upon the truth. And he knew what the end game would eventually be. That's why every single generation we see multiple versions of an antichrist. We see him because he's trying to raise them up for the final game that we know about. And we know that this is what's going on. And he is very, very good at this. So when you start looking at these secret societies, when you begin to look at these government agencies that are doing what they're doing, all this is a product of a satanic mindset that has been deeply embedded within the hearts of human beings from the very beginning. From the very moment that sin entered the world, when Adam did what he did, you can see these types of patterns being emerged from the Bible. You can see them. They're written right there. And then when you start looking at the Revelation description of what this Babylon economy is going to look like, this false god and the epitome of what the worship of false gods looks like, it centers around this world of just complete and total deception. And there's always a ruling class. If you go to Revelation chapter 6 and you read about the different seals that we see that are broken, and you begin to get into the four horsemen and you get into the black horseman, what are you gonna read? Or the horseman that rides a black horse? You're gonna actually see the effects of what happens when economic failure takes place. When economic failure takes place, it's a natural result of a totalitarian ruler that comes in, the rider of the white horse. And then you have, of course, war. That's the next thing that happens. After war, you have economic collapse, but the economic collapse combined with the war and the totalitarianism actually produces a ruling class. And the ruling class is what, in essence, ushers in the function of death. And that's where you get a quarter of the population that gets wiped out in the book of Revelation, because the ultimate picture looks that way when there are no Christians that are there to actually be the preserving influence. And that's the thing that has always limited people like the Rothschilds, that have limited the people that we continue to talk about, like when we talk about Rockefellers and Carnegies and the Clintons of the world and all of these things. It's Christians filled with the Spirit of God that puts a stop to all of this. And that's what we're actually looking at right now. And I think it's something that we have to be very wise to recognize and to make sure that people understand and know what's really going on. Tom, we're already over time. So I'm going to give you the last few words, bro. You wrap it up, and then I'll close things up.
Listen, James, there's so much going on that we need to talk about, and we'll do it next show. We're just scratching the surface. Let's pick up here, because we got way more to do. There's so much underneath the surface that nobody's paying any attention to, that this is like must know stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll do that. Next show, we will talk about that. And, it's funny when you start getting into the subject of the whore that rides the beast. Maybe that's what we'll call our next show, because I think it really fits with the subject matter that we're dealing with. And I can tell you this right now, we are definitely in that world. We are there. We're approaching it. It's not like we're even approaching it. We have arrived. And we are very quickly entering into the place that we know will exist after we are raptured. We can see the signs of it everywhere. It's happening. Well, there it is, folks. I got to tell you, I always hate cutting these shows off when we're on a roll, but we have to cut it off here. Me and Tom both hope that you have enjoyed watching this as much as we've enjoyed making it, or listening. If you're on the radio, we love you guys. We're so grateful for the fact that you listen to us. May God richly bless you, and keep your eyes up as we continue to count down to eternity. God bless you guys.
Thanks for joining us on this week's Countdown to Eternity. We want to encourage you to visit jameskaddis.com to find additional content and resources to equip you for the spiritual battle that we fight every day. You can also subscribe to James Kaddis over on YouTube and Rumble. If you'd like to support Pastor James and his family directly, visit jameskaddis.locals.com and subscribe there. You'll gain access to exclusive content, daily devotionals, and more. Countdown to Eternity is listener supported. Until next week, may the Lord bless you and keep you.